Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the LogTech podcast. Today we have a special topic or interesting topic because for decades, actually, the role of the operations manager in logistics has always been defined by firefighting, exception handling, a lot of data entry, copy paste, and so on. A role that is more administrative actually than strategic.
Yeah, but what if AI could actually change that? So what if automation isn't about replacing this role that we all know about, but elevating it? And today we're examining like how new technologies, specifically Flash by Forto, is transforming the daily work of operation managers. And yeah,
And yeah, we'll discuss actually if it's just about automation or if AI is truly creating an opportunity for humans to focus on complex and strategic tasks, something that's a lot of software tools already promised in the past. And so we're thrilled. Welcome to key people from Forto here, Francesco and Simone. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe let's set the stage. And the title of our episode today is From Clerk to Strategic Partner. How would you describe the traditional daily work of an operations manager, and how much of that role, clerk task execution, was reactive problem solving? Maybe to you, Simon.
I take it. I've been in the industry long enough and doing operation directly. I'm still kind of operator, so I think I kind of have some stake into the discussion. And today, or at least until a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, and still is going to be, the role of operation managers is very simple in a way. A huge amount of task processing and admin tasks. In the end, if you think about, you're saying that technology really didn't play a role in the industry. I do think so. It's exactly like that. In the end, the very big thing has been the invention of the container a few years ago. And in operation, the last 20 years, nothing really major happened. Operation has been always sitting in a desk, processing tasks before using AS400 and different TMS, different systems, evolving into maybe task management with the help of systems, but pretty much not really changing the type of the activity. A lot of admin, a lot of copy and paste, a lot of flipping across different systems, try to spot information that are scattered into different environments, and always having a lot in everybody's mind, meaning in the mind of operator, right? I mean, this is where still a good operator makes a huge difference in the industry. And what really means and what really does a great operator is processing tasks very accurately, on time, consistently, having a great knowledge of the processes that is basically running, but also the customer is handling. This is, of course, great for the good operator, but is not really scalable, not really consistent. I think in the industry, this is a problem. If you're someone that is basically taking a few days off, then issues are coming. So going back to the question, I think still a lot of admin, a lot of tasks processing and firefighting, mostly.
that role sounds still incredibly challenging to me. Simone, maybe to continue with this before maybe we can have a question for Francesco. Where did you at Forto identify like the biggest bottlenecks or frustrations for ops managers in total that also led to the development of a tool like Flash?
Well, I mean, there are very many different aspects of this. I think one is definitely that you're dealing with different systems normally. The informations are scattered across different systems. I think it's very frustrating that despite we're in 2025 and we have a lot of promises, now we are making changes, but still you have to spot very little details in spreadsheets, if you like. And then, of course, you have a lot of resistances in the ecosystem we are working on, right? And in meaning that you can have a great tool, you can have a great infrastructure, but you are dealing anyway with a lot of partners that are not going to the speed you go, let's say. So this is definitely another element of frustration. But I think eventually operators are really getting really annoyed when they to do a lot of repetitive tasks that are basically not really adding value in the end for our customers.
Maybe over to you, Francesco. If the old way, or in most cases still current way, was defined by executing tasks and not really adding a lot of value in the task per se, what does the new role of an operator look like in your vision to be like a strategic partner?
Yeah, maybe this is something as well where Simone will definitely chime in, right? From a VP of operations. First of all, Simone, I mean, I don't think you need me here. Simone has explained things so well so far. Maybe I'm not definitely. So well done, Simone. On your point, Stefan, things are changing. I think that's clear for everybody in all the industries. I don't think freight forwarding can spare itself for change as well. The new technologies, you know what I'm talking about, particularly the new LLM models, but regardless of what that is, but the capabilities of reasoning at scale that we are now confronted with these new technologies will definitely change the focus of our of employees. And that's also true for operation managers. I mean, Simone mentioned it very well again in detail, how the life of an operation manager in an industry like this one is it's hard because they have to constantly. I want to piggyback actually on a point that actually Simone mentioned, the firefighting. Firefighting is not, in my opinion, the way I see in the freight forwarding, just about like something is going terribly wrong. It's literally that operation managers are bombarded with inputs, from exceptions to the partner that is not cooperating, to the customer that is having a new expectation, and there's also, you know, bad deviations that obviously they have to be on the top on. A lot of that, going back to my point at the beginning, can be supported with, or even be dealt with the new technologies, right? With the new LLMs, with agentic systems, which is what we've been trying to do as well with Flash. What that means is refocusing, repivoting all our operation managers, doing what they really want to do, and they've been frustrated not being able to do because they don't have the capacity of the time of the focus, which is literally solving the customer problem, being with the customer more, even being available for longer and more in detail with the customer. It's going to be more actually rather than less with this technology, but this technology will enable to get that. So that's how I see the transition happening. I think it's true for other industries as well, particularly true for this one.
Follow-up question on that, Francesco. So if we talk about the technology, it's maybe in simple terms from your perspective, what is Flash and which of those traditional administrative tasks specifically are all going to be automated or different compared to today?
Yeah. So a simple way, I'll give you a simple and a difficult definition. So technically, Flash is a multi-agent system that is sitting on the top of our native transport management system that we built at Forto, which we call Faro. Think of it as a copilot, as a freight forwarding specialized copilot, right? That is supporting our operation managers alongside the whole life cycle of a shipment, from the booking request all the way down to, you know, the financial reconciliations of a particular file, right, or a particular shipment. Going back to your question, Yannick, right, in terms of what tasks can be automated. I mean, honestly, the sky is the limit. It's a matter of taking a call, right, on where, but that's more of a call that we take, like as in tech and with operations. I'll tell you maybe more about how we built as well, how we started actually entertaining in this particular technology, because actually the way to build this is very different. But a lot of repetitive tasks, like, for example, recommending, finding the best vessel option for a particular booking request, identifying actually a booking request, creating a shipment, right? Documentation. A lot of that actually is where agents can support. When I'm talking about agent, I'm talking about AI agent, can be specialized in support the human with. Some of these tasks, as I said, are already automated. I mean, 50% of the shipment created in our export business are completely done by our agent, AI agent, so no human interaction. So
Very
just
cool.
an example, the level of automation that we can achieve.
Just
And-
maybe one comment here.
Mhm.
Sorry, can I?
Yeah, sure. Jump in.
The level of automation obviously is incredible, but there's always something which comes as the very last, depending on the task, but last task, which is basically the human confirmation, and that's the story that we have with Flash. Being a copilot is super powering, let me say, the judgment and the activities of our operation manager, but not replacing them. Is literally helping them to make the best choice, the best decision in a range of possibilities, right?
Okay. I mean, now at Forto, you guys started out with your own TMS. Would it be possible, or would it have been possible, build something like Flash by Forto without owning the TMS?
That's such a smart question. That is a really, really good question.
Really mean question also.
No, it's actually getting to the point.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have been impossible, but I think it would have been much more difficult. And the reason being here is the decision that was taken at Forto back in time of building their own stack, and now it's giving its results. And that means that we fully control data, workflows, how we generate the data quality, data governance, right, and processes. We can also nimbly adapt them and change them to make the most out of them and make the AI implementation as effective as it can be. Would it have been possible? Yes. Could it have been as fast and as effective? I would have my doubts.
Mm-hmm. And is it actually possible to just replicate what you did on any other TMS, or is that highly dependent on your own TMS?
No. The capabilities of the agents are abstract of TMS itself. Obviously, you need to think of an agent as an employee, right? And so as you need to onboard an employee into your system, then obviously they'll get to know the tools. They'll get to know what they're interacting with as well in terms of systems and processes. So they need to be adapted, but yet they know what a house bill of lading is. They know what a vessel schedule is, right? So skill sets are agnostic, but they need to be adapted, obviously, to the tools that they're going to have access to in a different environment.
Thanks for this insight already. I think I would have like more questions to dive deeper on this one. Also, how you like kind of got found the employees and the workforce to build that. I think that's also quite interesting how you got there, but maybe we can touch on that later. I think a question for Simone. We touched on this topic. I think I hear it here and there already. Key phrase: use AI as an enabler, not a replacement. Like, how do you technically and also philosophically ensure that what you build now with Flash acts as the co-pilot how you already named it, and empowers your colleagues in operations rather than being just an autopilot that takes over and maybe does waste way differently than the experts would do it.
Yeah, great question. Obviously, there's a very fine line. Somehow, I don't want to spoiler, but Francesco will explain how we built together with the team. But anyway, the way Flash is designed is always in a way that is basically making the best recommendation, let's say, possible, and eventually the final answer or the final decision is still in the hands of operation managers. In the end of the day, while and how we've been able also to get a buy-in of the team, right? Because what you said is a very typical question. When we started building, we had questions like, okay, I'm not going to have a job any longer because we're going to have something which is going to replace 100%. We kept, we really consider these words as very important. I mean, we understand that this is a topic. Okay, this is a topic, though we need to design something and build something which goes in the direction of recommending, helping, and then, of course, removing all the tasks that are really not creating any value. Because in the end of the day, an operation manager will always be happy to have something which is basically cleaning up the tasks that are, for example, super admin related, basically copy and paste. So you're already kind of helping them with concrete steps into the direction. But then on the other side, you are basically bringing them to the stage in the moment that matters. So, for example, if there is you have to select a schedule, right? A vessel. So that is a very important moment. The copilot can come with a recommendation, and actually it does. Final decision is coming from the operation manager. And the operation manager can always say, no, I don't think this carrier is the correct one. We should go in another way. Interestingly enough, the copilot will ask why, and he will learn. For sure, he will learn. But in the end of the day, the decision will be done by the ops manager.
Can I add that point on this? Sorry, Stefan. Yeah.
Sure.
Both want to just mention, because I think it's important. This is an important topic. Obviously, I agree 100% with what Simone said. I want to add another point. Also, Forto took the conscious decision that we're not going to go the path of the autopilot. We don't want that, because ultimately what we want, the customer, right, has to know that there is always an operation manager who's accountable for their own file and shipment. It's not a machine that do its thing in a black, in something that they can't have visibility, they can't talk to, and they can't understand how it's reasoning. We need to have a counterpart there, and that's a technical decision as well, and a strategic decision of the company. To Simone's point, that doesn't necessarily mean repetitive, let me say low value adding activities cannot be autonomously handled by the agent, but the ultimate decision, and especially in moments like the one that mentioned Simone, where a decision is actually can make or break actually the effectiveness of a shipment, the human has to be there, and there always has to be the accountability and transparency with the customer. So it's a decision as well.
Yeah, no, I really get that point, and I think makes a lot of sense, because otherwise your customers would be scared, I guess. But interesting was also that if you, for example, say, no, I want to take another schedule, the system asks you why. So that means you're learning from the actions you're doing as an operator?
Yes. So the way it learns, though, at this point in time is through a regular review of our teams on the type of feedbacks, right? The reason being is before implementing aspects of self-learning and adapting, let's say, we are still in the phase of analyzing all the root causes. Sometimes the root causes are system root causes, right? In which case a learning in terms of the recommendation reasoning could actually go and be independently deployed. But in some cases, that's not correct, because in some cases there might be something that actually our copilot, given the input that has been given, took exactly the right decision. The problem is that maybe we need to add another input to give it an even better decision. It's important for us for now to keep control of every single failure modes and reasoning and feedback loops so that we can categorize them and analyze them on the root causes. It means more implementation. Some other times it means changing the business process as well.
Follow-up question. So is the feedback loops that you have, is it real time for the operator? So say the AI asks them, okay, why did you do that? You give them the context, and then the next order that you're working on, it already applies. Or is it that it goes back to you, Francesco, and your team, and you figure out the whole new way of like building a system that gives the right inputs in like a quarter or so? You can like have measurable inputs in your performance of the operators.
So for now, as we stand at this point in time, the feedback is requested real time, but in terms of the implementation, we took the decision for now to be in the second scenario, right?
Yeah.
Which is where we're gathering a scale, we're root causing it, analyzing, categorizing, and then identifying what the action for that particular root cause is to be implemented. There is a reason, again, it's our decision to be doing that. We could have gone directly like, self-learning kind of system, but we don't want to do that. We want to be careful and understanding exactly the failure modes, because as I said, sometimes the copilot was correct, even if actually the final answer was another one, but then why? Correct. So there was missing there. A feedback loop there would have been damaging the reasoning. And so this is why, since we strive for perfection, and our accuracy is beyond 90%, right? So we are 97% now. But to maintain that and to establish it on a recurrent way, we need to have full control and we need to have full visibility. For now, that's the decision.
Yeah, I think that makes like a lot of sense. If you look at logistics or supply chain in general, highly contextual, highly differentiated, highly unique in its own way. If you look at one transport or order or the other, probably there's a specific detail that's a lot different. You can't just maybe there is something that you could put on it that learns by itself. As we said, it's good to take control and try to understand it before having a black box that's too big.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not seeing a future in which some part of the self-learning it's not going to be implemented. But on some things, on some aspects, on some categories, in terms of failure modes, we might want to keep a close eye from our team, right, to understand exactly what the root cause is.
Okay. Stefan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no. I mean, if AI is now taking over like the low context tasks, or is giving a lot of recommendations, and the human is then there to judge, what specific tasks do you think cannot be taken over by AI in that whole process? So what will always be, or what will always need the human in the loop? Not sure who
Maybe
of
I can
you
start,
wants to answer that.
and then maybe you can add on your side. So to be clear, the AI, as I was mentioning before, something I think it's incorrect to think an agentic AI in a almost binary way. It's either copilot mode or fully autonomous mode. I don't think that's right. The way to think about it, at least the way we are approaching it, is we're starting copilot because of the reasons they were saying, but some elements of the shipment lifecycle can be dealt autonomously, right? Where we decide strategically not to do that, right, is where there are shipment moments of the lifecycle can actually the success of that particular shipment, or can interact negatively, could impact negatively our interaction with the customer. In that case, the human must be there. The final judge must be there. The accountable person must be there. And we want that. But there are some moments or some tasks life cycle in which, I don't know, for example, in a booking request, Copilot is able to read the data, right? At the moment to understand that that data is corresponding to a particular booking, they can create the file. So that's something that can be done, right? Autonomous. Vessel selection, taking big decisions over a deviation, right? And how to potentially replan things. We want the human there.
Yeah,
is
I
there
mean,
also
in the end, obviously, the more linear.
No, sorry, Simon.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Stefan, go ahead. I was just saying, obviously, the more linear and standard is whatever process you handle, the higher the possibility to leverage automation, obviously. But as we know, it's never the case, right? In freight forwarding, I mean, or at least I wouldn't say never the case, because there are a lot of steps and process steps that are very linear and very standard. But obviously, exception handling, exception management is definitely an area, regardless where it stays in the process, where operation will need to play an even more important role. And I think this is exactly one of the core topic in this discussion, how we see that and how evolving the role of operation managers. In the near future, I would say already now happening. You want to say that the operation manager would be probably shifting towards a more kind of customer care type of profile, where basically they're gonna really solve problems and looking into root causes, really reviewing the problems, that the challenges that the customer are facing, rather than really typing and crunching and doing admin in a nutshell, right? For 50% of the time in a nutshell. If you like, you see the bar of, let me say, admin and then customer care moving towards the customer care ones. Yeah.
I think you touched on a very important topic, also in logistics right now. A lot of business that is generated or then also hold between companies is often, I would say, it's on the relationship to the ops manager, the company itself. Does Flash or the systems that you have in place also support this? I'm not sure how to frame that correctly in a short way, but a lot of times you would get a transport order, and the important details are not really written; they are between the lines, where it's just based on this relationship that. Or you might also not get a transport based on something that's more emotional rather than in the data. Anything that is built into this into your systems that also supports that?
Yeah. Again, great question. Yes. So Flash knows its customers, right? And when I say knows its customer, is whenever Flash comes up, for example, for a recommendation, I'm going back again for easiness, also for the audience that is listening to us to understand better, to the point that Simone made before, right? The vessel, the schedule, right? The vessel selection. Again, that's a case that we want to stay in the end. In the final judge is the human. So that means the Flash takes a copilot role there and it comes up and churns information and comes up with a recommendation. Right? But when it's churning information, it's not just churning information that we have at the moment in our system, it's also having its memory and an understanding on the customer in preferences. Right? Flash applies that at the moment and understands this customer has a preference for this particular carrier, has particular preference for this particular routing, hence here's my recommendation. There is a reason why when we give the recommendation, actually we also give visibility of the full Flash reasoning. So the user is enabled and empowered to understand, I agree with you, my dear colleague, because that's how they have to interpret Flash, right? It's a colleague, or not agreeing. And if not, I want to know why, because I want to learn. To your point, Yannick, absolutely yes. It knows its customer. It wouldn't be able to be effective if it didn't, right? Because a lot of things go under the hood. And the customers do expect, rightly so, for their freight forwarder to know what they want, especially when it's recurring business, and we need to enable that.
Simone, have there been some colleagues of yours that have been surprised and were like, oh, damn, this Flash, he does know more about this customer than me?
I would say it will help them, right, across the border. I would say, in the end of the day, it will let them help ensuring that all the things that they have in their head are somehow, visible and can be delivered to the customer, so that eventually they can really, maybe have a talk about how did their football team, play last weekend. In the end of the day. So for sure, the way we see it is really helping operation to create a very consistent and customer basically specific service in the end of the day. I mean, what I was mentioning in the very beginning of the call about having the perfect operator today that stores a lot of information in their head. That's really great, right? Because an operator can really make a difference. But sometimes this is also a limitation, right? I mean, it's super personal related, which obviously is difficult to scale. If there is someone that has an issue, then it's difficult to replicate. I'm not saying that Flash will pretty much create this super consistent and standard knowledge across all the things that operator knows, but at least they will help them to basically drive behaviors, right? I give you an example. If one day, this is a very big topic in the industry, how to some extent the customer preference is captured and then delivered. So best case, you have a task management tool that says that, okay, this task has to be performed now. Worst case, there are millions of SOP that are written once and never reviewed, and nobody knows.
Classic.
And this basically brings me to, it's a very classic, in the industry. And this brings me to the point that the level of details that every little thing in terms of customer preferences are really scattered all over the place. And what we want to do is create a very consistent level of service, high raising the bar, suggesting what really needs to be done in a nutshell. But let the people basically anyway do the last.
What's interesting for me is also, did you already come up with efficiency KPIs? So how much more efficient does it make your team?
Simone, I think it's for you.
At this stage, we have, of course, some data, let's say, but we are really focusing on getting the things done in terms of, how we say, connecting all the dots in the tasks. For sure, there are opportunity, but I don't think it's really something that goes and look into the productivity as a first goal. I would say it's more delivering a very consistent customer service, enabling operators to do the right thing in the right moment, and removing from their desk the repetitive tasks. At a certain point, for sure, when we're going to be bigger and learn, there will be the possibility to get efficiencies into this. But I don't think this is the end goal.
Yeah, because sorry, Francesco, go ahead.
Stefan, there are some phases, although that we have already measured efficiency gains. So, for example, Simone, I'm thinking, for example, the Flashdoc side. So on the documentation, that's basically the agent of Flash that takes care of incoming documentation, reads the information, validates the information, extracts it, and push it into our transport management system, so Faro. And in there, we noticed actually a 20% efficient increase. So the way we're going to be looking at is how we deploy, but that's not the end-to-end. I think that's what Simone was.
Exactly.
Right? The only way for us to measure it is by specific agent performance, right? And when I say agent, remember always the Flash is a multi-agent. system, right? And every single agent does a part of the job, right? As I was mentioning some performance metrics as well in the booking agent, which is the one that creates the booking at the beginning with the 90% accuracy rate and so on.
Yeah, because in the end, when you also need to give a reasoning as an operator, or basically need to explain the AI why you took a different decision than the AI recommended. Of course, this is also taking time. So it could also be that you're less efficient than without the AI.
Yeah, but that's not happening in our case as well, because the recommendation in terms of the input of the user, for example, and the feedback, it's literally super easy. So imagine it like a pop-up and say like, hey, why didn't you follow up this? And you can just write down. I think it was the wrong one because whatever.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and something that coming back from what really makes operator frustrated in the very beginning of the podcast. We said I didn't say, but let me say, having a very neat and clean user experience when they are doing things. Working in a TMS is a topic, right? I mean, I'm coming from my personal experience where my eyes were basically crossing and going left, right, center in front of an AS400 screen to a more obviously sexy design. But what we have with Flash is very different, right? It is really something that can be fun, let me put it this way, right? I think we put a lot of efforts also to make it nice and easy. And coming back to Francesco, when something goes wrong, that's exactly the point, is a little pop-up and a little comment, and LMM basically makes the magic. So I think we just have to think and to kind of envision a completely different also view of the tools that at a certain point will be available, or they are available already, by the way.
Exciting. Next up, we're going to do some either or quick choices with you. You just need to decide quickly. You can give an explanation why you chose that, what you chose. So you can, of course, just choose one. Yeah, maybe the first one directly to you, Francesco. Perfecting process automation or managing complex high-stakes exceptions?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
of course.
From a technical perspective, again, I'm wearing the technical hat, right? I think when it comes to applying a technology like LLM or approaching things with an agentic approach, you really need to be clear on the scope and the needle that you want to move, right? And have a very clear understanding of what piece of work to do and go after it. That it's easier, let's say, and faster in terms of ROI realization if you are going to on very scoped and already existing processes rather than going for massive scopes that can drag you down under the rabbit hole, where the ROI could be in 3 years' time. And in years and in times like that, ROI in 3 years' time, I wouldn't go for that, right? I would actually try to go for something that solves a problem right now rather than something bigger potentially later. Not saying that we're not going to go, you shouldn't do that, but that's the rationale why.
That also maybe means the AI agents will come to classic import export shipments, containerized maybe first, and then at a very later stage to, I don't know, project shipments without containers, unpacked machines or whatever, right?
Oh, that's right. But that's a decision, right? So where do you want to have your ROI first, and what's your business? Business is more relevant in the first scenario. You should definitely start from there and realize ROI as soon as possible. And then, as I said, with this technology, the sky is the limit. But you really need to be diligent and structured because you might find quickly yourself onto something bigger, more complex that you can handle with the resources that you have. And that means no ROI whatsoever. You just lost time. We absolutely want to avoid that. So start where actually the business is Start where the problem is, solve that. Very focused, super fast.
Thank you for that. I have one for you now, Simone. I think that's I'm looking forward to your answer. Let's say like that. So if you look at your ops manager today, what's the most valuable skill for that he or she should have for the future? Deep data analysis or strong relationship management and negotiation skills?
Still, the second one, negotiation skills and being able to basically build a rep. I already nodded to that in the very beginning. I mean, imagine and what we envision is a place where the front line will play an even more important role, speaking and staying with customers even more, I would say, and then obviously being able to really address the challenges that the customer have, understanding them, and then moving on. Things that are related to analysis and data, that is AI, can be done in the background, let me put it this way. But rep relationship cannot be ignored, and we do value this. I think this is exactly the key element and the key point in this discussion. I mean, we don't want to replace, we want to superpower.
Yeah, I like that perspective. Thank you.
Francesco, the biggest value of AI in operations is unlocking massive cost efficiencies or enabling a new customer service level.
I mean, we're going to the second one. It's our mantra, as it's been at the beginning. Cost efficiency will come. The ultimate goal in terms of North Star metric is actually the customer care, customer service quality, right? We're all doing that to move that needle in the end. If you go towards that way, the cost efficiency will come, in my opinion, as a byproduct. That shouldn't be your primary metric, at least for us. For us, this is about really redeploying all our expertise, right, and all our focus in providing a differentiating. Imagine where we're going to be able, because we will, to have all our operations actually provide almost a one-to-one relationship with our customers and listen to them and solve their problems on a person, because there's always something that there is supporting there, right, in doing the admin. That's the end goal. So that's why for me it's the second.
Okay. Simone, last one for you now. When developing a tool or multiple tools, multiple agent system like Flash, should the goal be to build a fully autonomous autopilot so the operator can really focus on like a maximum level of relationship management, or build the perfect co-pilot for the human expert but have less relationship management? Which one would you choose?
I will go for the second one, because in the end of the day, I don't think it's one or the other full-fledged, meaning you can still do automation in tasks that are not creating any value, and then anyway freeing up time for managing exceptions, I would say. I think it's not a really binary topic here. I think it's more finding the right level for in which you stay, I would say. So for sure, though, the option number one, full automation, cannot be considered. In the end of the day, the moment this will happen, the freight forwarding industry will not exist. Let me put it this way. I'm very drastic into this, but I do think that we are also here to solve problems that are always raised because of the complexity and the ecosystem and the industry we are on. The moment we're going to be able to fix all the problems, then of course we will talk something completely different, let's say.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, if this is actually the new reality and you're using your multi-agent already, did your hiring strategy or the skill set of the people you're looking for, did that already change, Simone?
We are adapting, but not making any drastic, I would say, change. I would say for now. In the end, it's not necessarily about a hiring. It's about basically, let me say, changing the skin of the people that we have also in the team, right? Upskilling, ensuring that the space and the time that they are basically deploying on operational tasks are less than, for example, solving problems or being able to deal with customers. So we are doing a lot of work, let me say, to basically shift through training and support towards the end goal, which is having a more customer care rather than operation profile. In the future, it could be, depending on the scale, that of course we will change also slightly the hiring profile there, but it's not the case yet.
Can I add another point actually on what Simone said? Because I 100% agree on what he said. I want to say even more. Operation team is building Flash with us. When I say this, I think Simone alluded to this at the beginning of the interview. But when we decided to start investing in this technology and building the agent, we have created a task force, a specific team with a completely different let's say mindset, but also approach in terms of software development, because this is not a deterministic development anymore. This is a probabilistic development. So everything has to change, even the way we do product life cycle. We have embedded operation people in the squad. They're sitting literally next with engineers. They're building Copilot themselves with our engineers, right? They're part of the squad. That is what actually created the possibility for us to quickly iterate on feedback and the probabilistic nature of the technology, right? Because we had the knowledge in the team. So I think that helps as well with that transition in terms of skill set, right? Because they're actually participating and they know the product very, very from inside. And they're not scared anymore, but actually they love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge topic, and very happy that also Francesco is sharing this, because this is we as an operator, we are very happy of course of the direction, because we're really not only co-piloting, but we are co-building, let me put it this way, what we are really doing. And that's a big thing, right? I mean, very often you might have this alignment on what basically, between operation and tech. This is something that can happen, right, in any company. What we're doing with Flash is completely different, right? Is really working together to solve a problem, which is great.
Maybe a last follow-up before Stefan maybe has the last question. Can you go a bit deeper on the approach, how you build Flash and how it really looks like? I'm curious, if I'm an operator now at Forto, how do I use Flash? How does it look like in my daily work? How can I imagine it, if like in words for the listener? Maybe Francesco, Simone, I'm not sure who is the best for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can start. Simone, feel free to chime in. I mean, you know it very well as well. So, but on a daily basis, you will log into our transport management system, and then you are starting from a particular shipment, or you're starting from your email, because that's where you want to start that particular day. That's where you would have actually imagine it in terms of user interface. You can imagine it a little bit like a Copilot of Microsoft, right? When you have a sidebar that comes in, and that sidebar has the context of where you are at that point in time. So, for example, if you are in your email inbox and if you open the sidebar, our Flash could already start processing the emails and understanding, hey, I think you have in your inbox already 3 bookings, right? And I have already understood the intent. I have already got I know the customers, so I know what they want to ship, more or less. They didn't put all the information, but I can predict it because I know their history, right? Shall I create the shipment, right? Stuff like that. For example, if you are on another area of our Faro, so our transport management system, then obviously you would have a recommendation, for example, in the vessel selection. So it's a contextual sidebar that is with them when it's needed.
So also works across multiple apps, not only your TMS, also
yes, because
Outlook,
it
email.
follows our operations, right? It follows our operations where they need to be. We're not going to change where they have to be because we need to build something. this something has to enable them, right? That's the whole point.
That's interesting. It goes back on one point we touched already about the importance of TMS. TMS is always key because in TMS there are all the workflows and data that we are handling. But in the end of the day, Flash is pretty much the place at a certain point an operator and a user can basically play with. And the TMS will be the infrastructure that obviously will support what really happens and the decisions that an operator is making. So I'm not saying that in the future there will be no TMS any longer, but from a user experience perspective, it might also be that it will look like more like Flash in a way.
100%.
Cool.
That's a spoiler.
That's a good input for our last question. Maybe 5 years ahead. I'm not sure if you guys are aligned on it. I hope. But a question for both of you: what is your personal vision of the day-to-day life for an operations manager who is fully empowered by these new tools, new technology?
You start, Simone.
You saw that you can get a little bit of time for thinking.
That's very mean.
I can start, but I'm not go fully visionary. So if it's about operations, I want to start and keep me honest.
Difficult question. Obviously, 5 years though will be probably a time where I hope I will step into an office or in a remote location, and I will see an operator that is less stressed and overwhelmed, simply because knows exactly what to do with the support of a tool that will enable him to make the right choice at the right moment, I would say. How this will look like, it is still, to be seen. But I think the key message is pretty much about how this operator will be, part of the business, meaning be more relaxed, being able to somehow really looking into what it really matters and speak with customers, because enabled by tools and technology.
Agree, and I actually would add that where I would love to be in 5 years' time is for our operation managers to have the luxury, the time to do what they really love, which is being with their customers, right? And I can imagine a future in which they will be working with their own customers, even in optimizing their processes, supply chain, like almost like a customer success team.
Mm-hmm.
They can solve the problems. They can actually have them doing better business, more business, right? More sustainable business, because they know something else has their back. That is, keep on working relentlessly and precisely on their shipments, and they have that freedom of finally not to firefight anymore, but actually to create value for the customer.
Almost like supply.
You said it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Stefan, handing over to you.
Yeah. Nothing more to say. Thanks a lot for joining. Super interesting. Thanks for your perspective on the whole topic and on how far you got with that multi-agent setup at Forto. And thanks a lot. And all the best for the future of Flash.
Thank you for having us. Our pleasure.
Thank you for having us. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.